if you're in the plateau, sometimes you have to shock the muscle. Hey guys, Coach Dan here. That was my best Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation, and it didn't feel right, and I don't think it sounded right either. But anyway, so something that I might have to do today. This is my lower body day, first one of the week. Is I'm really struggling for progress. I'll slow down a little bit here in a second. For progress on the hack squat. So I feel like all things are well otherwise. My eating similar, my sleeping similar, my recovery is all the same. All stuff is going well. Now in this situation, there is potential that it's maybe the current volume that I'm doing is not enough to make me progress for where I'm currently at. So the idea is potentially to take my volume for my hack squat up a little bit and maybe just my quads in general. So I might go from doing, I think I've got, how many? 3, 6, I do 8 total sets for quads at the moment per week. That's 8 direct sets, should I say. Then you got things like split squats, step ups, etc. So what I'm thinking about doing is just simply adding a set to the hack squat and adding a set to the leg press on my other lower body day. This will take my direct volume up 20%, and then I could just run that experiment for the next couple of weeks. If that helps start to move me forward again, then maybe that was the issue, that I'm not doing enough volume to make progress. If that's not the case, I could try that again, another 20%. If there's still no progress, sometimes there might be a recovery issue that maybe I'm not perceiving. I cannot feel like I'm under recovered, but maybe I just am, and I might need to take some rest time for those muscles. So in short, potentially adding volume could lead to restarting my progress, get my hack squat progression moving forward again. Potentially I'm under recovered and I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but we shall find out. So we'll do that today, and I'm thinking about doing it in a really brutal fashion. So stay tuned for that. Oof, I haven't done this in a little while and it's terribly painful, but it does the trick. Oof. You'll see it in a second coming up here. So, but good things to come from last week. My modified step up that I'll do again today, that was nice. The restructuring, everything was nice. Last week was pretty spot on. So most things are business as usual. The hack squat, maybe we'll need to do something a little bit funky and shock the muscles. That one felt better. Although that sounded like Groove from Despicable Me. So I've got to work on my accents. Anyway, see you at the hack squat.
Alright, first up we have hack squat. So I'll get you this shot just so you can see the foot position I like to employ. So for me, I've got this logo here, my toes at the top of the logo, toes slightly out. Now, everyone's a little bit different as far as foot position or build or whatever it might go. So you just essentially take the foot position that feels good for you, that allows you to expose your quads to the most tension possible. So if I were to go higher up with my feet, what you'll note is that you get less knee flexion potentially and more hip flexion, so therefore glutes might work a little harder. Now you can go really low. Again, you just want to be mindful of what feels best for your quads, your joints, all that kind of stuff. So for me, I've found toes at the top of the logo here, toes slightly out works well for me. I get full knee flexion, that works well for me. Body feels good doing it that way. All right, so now that we have the foot placement, I personally also use the yoga blocks here. I strap them down with these straps just from the hardware store. So that allows for me just a larger range of motion or more knee flexion that I would gain through this machine than if I don't. So I'm a bit short. So if you have this same issue as me, this can be a good thing, and your hack squat doesn't allow that full depth or as much knee flexion as possible. Yoga block strap too. You don't even need the strap. These just get tucked under. So I set my feet to what you've already seen for the hack squat. Control the down. Feel the quads stretch out. Get as much knee flexion as possible. Feels okay for you and your body. Drive up. Extend the knee. Feeling the quads as well. So I've got 3, potentially 4 sets here. Maybe the last one being a drop set for some brutality. I haven't done that in a while, but I remember last time doing it, felt disgusting. All right, I'll warm it up and then we'll get ready for set 1. Oh! So that is the hack squat. So the agreement in my head at the beginning of that was if I didn't improve my performance on last week, that I would do a drop set at the end. So the idea here, this is not just about shocking the muscles, as Arnie would say, it's about adding work. I'm going to try a little bit extra volume, see if that budges my performance a little bit, gets it heading back up, and if knows the answer, I could budge it again. If I'm still not progressing, then we got to go back to the drawing board. So it's almost like we're making a experiment, and I'm the experiment. And the outcome that I want is increased performance, and I'm not getting it, so I need to change something. So variables that can change is volume, intensity of effort, like how hard I'm trying, which I'm already trying pretty hard. So try a volume increase, potentially I'm under recovering and I don't know it. So firstly, because I feel like I don't feel like I'm under recovering, I'll add a little bit of volume and then go from there. So one heavy set, 6 to 8 reps. I'm eating the same at that weight for the last 3 or 4 weeks, 6 reps. Lighter sets, they've been kind of varying between 10 and 12, so 2 sets of that. Then, once I finished that last set, I pretty much just took off my belt, took the weight, a plate off each side, and then went straight into my last set. So I got 8 reps, final light set, took a couple weight plates off, got 7 again. So some downsides to this is like my heart rate is jacked up, it's terribly uncomfortable, but the upside is I don't have to spend more time resting, doing another set, and that kind of thing is done already. So pros and cons. All right, let's move on. All right, next up we've got what I'm calling a modified step up. So the reason I call this a modified step up is because it's not exactly a step up. This particular Smith machine doesn't allow me to go a full range of motion up, so I'm stepping back a bit, almost into a split squats kind of stance. So I've got this box, this might be 30 centimeters, maybe a little bit over off of the ground, but I'm also going to step back into it as well. Now the reason I'm doing it this way, again, is because this range doesn't allow it, but I still want to get into a position where I stretch my glute out pretty significantly. So if I was just to do a standard step up here, this would be my range, right? So I'm not getting heaps of hip flexion, which is essentially my knee towards my chest or vice versa. So for me, I'm going to step back into it, get my chest nice and close to my leg, drive up from there. Now, this is going to allow a lot more stretch through my glute and hopefully making it better for growth of my glute. So, box, essentially set up directly under the bar. And then again, height here, if there was an infinite height, I'll just take the box higher. There's not, so I'm stepping back, right? So box underneath the height, stepping back until your chest gets pretty close to your leg, if not all the way down. I did this for the first time last week. Muy bien. Got the booty working, got the butt all pumped up, a little bit of soreness. And even though it's not all about soreness, just shows me that it's worked what I wanted it to work. So that's a good sign. Did pretty good last week as far as performance, so I'm gonna add 2.5 kgs per side and see how I go this week, right? 2 sets, 8 to 12 reps per leg. All right, step ups done. So great variation for the booty. Pretty underrated, I reckon. Most people these days are doing the split squats, the RDLs, the hip thrusts. But this one, definitely worth a shot. Again, a big advantage. We're getting lots of hip flexion. And the glute is the muscle that's responsible for extending the hip. So if we get lots of hip flexion, we get big stretch. If we get big stretch, it would appear, according to somewhat recent research, that we're getting either neutral or better growth. So on average, it's looking like it's definitely worthwhile training muscles in the stretch position, which is a potential downside of things like hip thrusts. Not bad, because they can obviously work your butt, but I would say making sure you're doing a variation of movement which makes your hip flex quite significantly. Could be squats, could be RDLs, could be split squats. I like the step up for this day. Now, again, set up, box under the bar, big reach back because the Smith machine is too short here. That's saying something because I'm not very tall myself. And again, we're trying to drive with our glute. Stretch the glute, drive with the glute. Try not to bounce off the back leg. All right, that's good stuff. The benefit here is that, tomorrow's back day. So you get out of this one, you get to tomorrow, it's a lot more pleasant. But you build your discipline, your toughness from doing a workout list and carrying on. I think people underestimate that. Doing the stuff that other people don't want to do and being the person that does the stuff that people don't want to do. Most people don't want to exercise regularly, get up early, whatever they have to do to exercise. Most people definitely don't want to hurt like those hack squats feel, like these step ups feel. So, you know, if we want to be the person who gets some different results than the average, then we've got to do some things differently. We've got to become a different person. So, whew, that's what these days are good for, being the person who can push through. All right, let's go hamstring curl if it's free. All right, next up we've got the seated hamstring curl. So nothing crazy to be said about the seated hamstring curl. I think one of the main things just to be mindful of is getting your legs up this way. So a benefit of the seated one versus a lying one is we're in this pre-stretch position. So if I do something like this, I'm already not getting as much stretch. So let's get as large a range as you can with your flexibility and mobility. Feet up nice and high, using the hamstrings to pull your lower leg towards your ass, basically. So this is my only hamstring exercise for this day. So 3 sets here, 10 to 15 reps. Trying to best what we did last week for that little bit of performance improvement. A couple of minutes here, and then we will be ready to go. All right, hamstring curls done. Feels pretty good. You know your hamstrings are a bit fucked up when you go to lean out over to get your water bottle, and that's pretty rough. So, yeah, key points there. Make sure you bring this up as high as you can. You might not get it all the way to the top, but that's cool. Bring it up as high as you can. Get a good stretch or a pre-stretch on the hamstrings, as if you were doing a sit and reach stretch. So I already have a pre-stretch on the hamstrings in that position, and that's kind of the benefit of the seated versus lying variation. I do 10 to 15 reps. And then a little strategy I use towards the end of the set there is length and partials. So think about some of these machines, and the strength that we have is that we have different strength in different parts of the movement. So we're pretty good here, but quite weak here. And the machine is quite hard here. So in the instance that we can't get it all the way to the end range, we can still continue on with a little bit of what we call length and partials. So going from the stretch position, maybe halfway down, and you can get a little bit more out of the set or train a little bit closer to failure. So that's a strategy I employ on this one, and machines like it, where it's really hard when you're trying to finish the rep, but you can still get more reps in. So all the way as long as you can, and then those just to finish off, right? Big stretch, my hamstrings feel pretty fucked up just sitting here, so it's probably a good sign. All right, let's move on. All right, let's see if we can get through the leg extension without pissing ourselves any further. So leg extension setup for me, again, involves the yoga blocks, just like I used for the hack squat. Increases the range of motion, increases the stretch on the quads. So that might not be a massive deal, but I do it anyway. It takes a couple minutes to set up, feels really effective to me. Depending on your leg extension machine, this one I would say is pretty average as far as the range goes, so this increases it X amount. The other thing I do is I also take the back pad and take it all the way to the back. So I'm not very tall, but taking it all the way to the back helps open up my hip, and again, stretches out the main muscle that we're trying to target here, which is a rectus femoris, which is the big muscle that runs through the center of the quad. Quad being 4 muscles, it's one of the muscle that passes over the knee, but also passes over the hip. Now, an issue with training this muscle on things like squats, leg presses, any of that other stuff, is that when you squat, when you're going down, you're flexing the knee at the same time that you're flexing the hip. So the rectus femoris, or as part of the quad, it extends the knee, but it also flexes the hip. So when it's working at one particular job at this joint, it's working the opposite at this joint, which means they kind of combat each other. Meaning that when you do leg presses, squats, things of that nature, hack squats, etc., split squats, whatever, it essentially doesn't get worked as effectively. So if we use the leg extension, we can help target the rectus femoris. We lean back, help stretch it out a little bit further, and make sure it's all about that muscle, right? So lean all the way back. We have the yoga blocks here. Crank this bad boy as far as it will go. Lock in. When we're ready to begin, full extension, control the down. Full extension, keep all that tension right in the quads. All right, so after that hack squat, during the first week I've done that drop set on those. This is potentially going to be brutal. So I'm not sure how the performance will go, but we'll see in a second here. Only 2 sets, so that's my saving grace here. 2 sets, glute exercise, 2 sets, and we are on the home stretch, as they say. All right, a couple of minutes here, and then we'll be ready to smash out set 1. That went better than expected. So remember, set up for the leg extension. It has merit to lean back, even if you're a shorter person. Helps open up or stretch out the rectus femoris because it passes the hip and the knee. So essentially you're opening this up, pushing that back as far as possible to stretch the whole quad out. And people generally do the opposite of that on here. They kind of get right in this position and crank these out, probably because they make themselves feel stronger, but it's not really the goal just to lift as much weight or be as strong as possible. The goal is to stimulate growth in the quads, right? So a larger stretch has some potential benefit there. So leaning back, open up, get the back, even if you don't have the yoga blocks, crank the handle as far back this way as possible, stretch that rectus femoris out as much as possible, smash it out from there. All right, so we have things like machine abduction next, calf raises, but just got to check for availability. Leg press calf raise next. Happy we're on the back end of the workout. So in an ideal world, your leg press doesn't have any kind of part of the machine here which kind of blocks your foot from going under. So we have 2 leg presses here. That one over there I don't use for this. I use for my actual leg press because it goes through a great range of motion. This here, nothing under here as part of the machine, which can often be the case and then block you from going through a good range. So I'll get half the foot on, half the foot off. At least, let's say that's my foot. The ball of the big toe should be on there the whole time, allowing you to really push and produce a lot of force. If you start to slide off, shuffle back on, reset and go again. Otherwise you'll find that you just won't be able to produce lots of force. You'll be tippy-toeing it basically. So heel goes underneath, massive stretch in the calf, raise up as high as you can. So on this one, I'll also do at the end of the set, once I can't fully extend the ankle anymore, I'll do some half reps to finish off and even finish in the full stretch position. Oh, brutal. Now, alongside that, I'm gonna do my ab work. I've been doing a leg raise more recently, but I'm gonna switch it up to a V-up today. I'll show you that now. So it's been a while since I've done V-ups, so we'll see how we go here. So the idea is that we've got arms and legs fully stretched out, and then we bring them towards one another. So we're coming from both the bottom and the top for our abdominal work today. So I've been doing a leg raise strictly. I'm gonna go to V-up today just for a bit of a change up. I'm getting a bit over that one. It's not feeling very effective anymore. Just a bit over it, to be honest. So sounds a bit lame, but that's the call for today. So this one, haven't done in ages, all body weight. Eventually, I can add a weight to my hands. And if I so see fit, whatever the expression goes, I can add those straps that I've been using for the leg raise. So the leg press calf raise is right here, or the leg press is right here, should I say. So I'm gonna go straight from this, pretty much roll over here, and then do this as a superset. I've got 5 sets to do, 10 to 20 here. I don't know how many I'm gonna get here, but make it nice and hard. Maybe it'll be in a similar kind of rep range. 5 times through. This is my only calf exercise and my only ab exercise for today. So 5 sets I do of abs and calves on this day, 5 on my other lower body day, accumulating 10 sets of each total. So far that works for me pretty well. Don't have to do, a whole bunch of different exercises. Just these 2, bang out 5 sets, one to the next, save a bit of time. I'll show you how a superset looks here now. All right, so that's the leg press to V-up superset. So the leg press is right here. I do my calf raises on there, roll over here, do my V-ups here, and then kind of move back and forth, just logging the reps that I accomplish in between each. Saves me some time. And when you do a calf raise systemically, like your whole body, your heart rate, everything's not too fucked up. So you can move from there to there and them not affect each other too much. A superset might potentially be a bad idea if one of the exercises is so fatiguing it smashes the other exercise. So example, if I got off the hack squat earlier and tried to do pretty much anything else, that second exercise would have been fucked because of it. So that might not practically work very well, but a calf raise, no real heart rate issues. Locally, my calves who were fucked up, but again, I can come over here and do my abs without really any issue as far as performance go, I imagine. If I were to do all those separately and all these separately, I don't think the performance would change. But this way I save some time. So I've got all the big movements done. I still want to make sure I pay attention to my abs and my calves, so this is a good way to kind of work it in. So I've got some supersets like this scattered throughout the week just as a time-saving method. So if you want to do these leg raises, this is the first time I've filmed them and this is the first time I've done them in a long period of time, and you haven't tried them before, you can start off with bent legs. So we go legs out straight, bent legs come in like that, and that can make it a little bit easier. Or you could do the crunching component and the leg raise component separately until you build up. One of the concerns with that one is there is a little bit of stability and technique required. Like I feel myself shuffling around, but my abs feel pretty smashed because of after doing it, so I'm cool with it. And as the weeks go on, my technique will get a little bit better. So I'll use these two for the foreseeable future. Now, due to availability, I didn't get to do my machine abduction, so let's go there now. All right, so another somewhat unique setup I have for the machine abduction. So I've got the yoga blocks in play again. I use them a lot. Again, to push my knees closer to get together. So if we think about the glutes, they potentially have two main functions. That's hip extension, so finishing squats, hip thrust, that kind of motion, that hip extension, but also machine abduction. So if you ever see glutes on a like a model, when you see the model of muscles, they kind of angle somewhat to the side. So machine abduction is potentially helpful for developing the glutes on the overall, and maybe different part of the glutes that things like, yeah, your hip extension motions don't do. So yoga blocks, I stand up, bring this together, lock it into the most narrow portion, then I sit down with it. Now before I begin, I lean forward into it. Again, if we're thinking about glutes job being hip extension, me flexing the hip is going to stretch them out just that little bit more. Then we get the knees out as far as they'll go, into that kind of position there. Control the way in, feel the tension. So if wanting to develop the glutes overall, you don't have to do all, like I see people do like 5 different glute exercises. I think that's a bit excessive, because if you use every single exercise in your arsenal, next program you have nothing to go to. If you use a couple, you get the main functions of the glutes, and then next program, let's say, so for example, I stop progressing with the step-up variation that I'm doing today or something like that, I want to be able to vary my program such that I can keep progressing. So if I use all exercise in this program and I stop making progress, where do I go if I've used all my exercises? So making sure we don't use up all the exercise selection in our arsenal means that the next program, we can kind of sub things in and out so we can keep progressing. If we, let's say did split squat, hip thrust, step up, high foot leg press, all these things all together, 3 months in the future, I'm not making progress, where do I go? There's nowhere to go because I've got no more exercises. So a couple of exercises, take care of the main functions of the muscle that you're trying to train. If you need to do more work, add a set here and there, add 20% volume here and there, not necessarily 15 different exercises. That's my approach to it. Take it or leave it. I'd take it. All right, 2 sets here and we out. Oh, good stuff. So that's my machine abduction technique. So yoga blocks, you might not have those, but that's cool. Leaning forward, stretch your glutes out. Now just keep in mind, when anyone you follow or anything like that recommends you do something, like usually it's just a recommendation. Put it through its paces yourself and see if it works for you. Because yeah, I think that's a big part, is usually within like the influencing space and fitness and stuff like that, you'll hear comments like, you must do this, this technique made my glute size double. Like that is almost definitely bullshit. So anytime you hear must, absolute, these really like guaranteed strong statements, often they are just to get you to watch or do what they are doing or follow them or whatever it might be. Think critically, you go, oh, that makes sense, the explanation makes sense, and then put it through its paces yourself. So you do a standard machine abduction, that smashes your glutes, and then you do this and it feels like shit, do your standard variation. This is not proven to be better in all situations for all people. It's my strategy. I've gone from doing a standard version to this, notice that I felt my glutes way more doing this, so that's why I do it. So try and think critically, and then if there's a decent justification or reasoning or rationale behind doing something that someone explains it really well to you, go, yeah, it makes sense, I'll give that a try. Give it a try, put it through its paces yourself. If it works out for you, carry on. If not, go back to your own variation. Like, yeah, the thing about these absolute statements is they're almost always bullshit, because even in the research realm, what is generally happening is we're finding averages. So you get averages across a group of X amount of people, and on average, this means this. That's on average. Within that study, you would have had people that are away from the average, you know, further in front, further behind, whatever it might be. So think critically, try things out for yourself. If they feel good to you, they feel effective to you, do it. If not, go back to your variation. It's always this ongoing experiment. But yeah, take it into account and then make your own decision. All right, that's us done. Sweet.
So I shocked the muscle and this is the result. That's my Arnold impression again. Oh, it's not good. It doesn't sound good coming out of my mouth. It doesn't feel good. Jesus. Anyway, so lower body workout done. Pretty proud of that one. I think that's the good thing about training lower body. It hurts, it's hard. You come out the back end of it and you feel accomplished and proud, which is really nice. So same reiteration from the introduction of the video. Because I'm not progressing with my hack squat, what I did today is I added a drop set at the end to increase the volume at touch. What I'll also do is I'll add another set to my leg press on my other lower body day. So that will take my volume up 20%. So instead of shocking the muscle like Arnold said, because that's not necessarily very, I don't know, you could do anything to shock the muscle. Like you could get on a bike and that would shock your muscles, right? If we add 20% volume, there is some research surrounding volume progression and how that can be good for muscle growth. And again, 20% was in a particular study. So that's kind of how I approach it. If I am plateaued and everything else seems consistent, everything else is good, rest is good, food's good, all these other things are good, nothing else has changed, volume could be a factor to play around with, to experiment with. But it's an experiment. If I come next week and again, my performance starts to go down, the experiment probably failed and maybe it is a recovery issue or some other kind of issue. But it's the experiment game, right? Where we're trying to keep budging ourselves forward. How do we do that? Volume can be a thing. Let's try volume. Oh, wait, in a couple of weeks' time, if I realize, oh, I'm smashed, I can't keep going, then we go, okay, volume probably wasn't the thing. Let's bring the volume back. Let's take some extra recovery. Let's start again. Let's reset. Let's see if we can't progress past those marks. So that's my approach. Again, it's not the be-all and end-all approach. It's just the approach I like to take. Quite a methodical approach I often like. It's like an experiment that we're trying to just, you know, get a little bit better over time. So it's not just shocking the muscle. Yeah, that's definitely grew from Despicable Me. But anyway, here we go. Let's add some volume. Did that work? Yes, carry on. Sweet. Continue. Did it not work? All right. Can I give it another couple of weeks to see if it's actually not work or if it's just a bad week, whatever it might be. And then in that case that we're not getting better, then we have to find another reason why we're not making progress, be it recovery, be it food's down, be it something else, you know what I'm saying? So, all right. That's that. So if you guys have watched this part of the video and you're not subscribed, hit the button up here for a subscription. If you want to see how I train some of my other muscle groups, hit this playlist here. It's got how I train all my other muscle groups as well. And remember, it's all about progress over perfection. Coach Dan, signing off.